Hello and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
The E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have a return to the Cold Relics stories with LIZ-4. So, yeah, we've done a couple of cold storage stories prior, like Kittyland and Laser Tag. These stories are posted on creepypasta.wiki by Digigekko, and as far as I know, they're also the writer and such. They're also on an official website called the Cold Relics website. And near as I could tell, as I'm about to dive into the rundown, the starting narrator is our hero, the character who was researching laser tag and then also like dealing with the stuff in Kittyland. So
yes,
our narrator or our hero, as he is referenced on the Cold Relics website, has located a new strange Cold War era story involving technology. Through delving into dun dun dun
the deep web.
my God.
This story is posted covertly through a third-party individual on the deep web for an anonymous person who is the daughter of the woman whose journal we are reading with commentary from the daughter.
Did you get that, everybody?
Everybody got that? Spaceballs reference number 1. Yeah, no, that sounded about as convoluted as it did when I wrote it.
Yep.
The journal transcribes events from the mom's job up in Barrow, Alaska, which is now called Utqiagvik in present day, by the way. Just FYI.
No worries.
Yeah, they gave it back to the Inuit to rename and such. That was cool.
They do have cooler names.
Yes, they do. Yeah, the mom has a job in Barrow, Alaska, in the 1980s, 1988 to be exact. And this journal transcribes her discovery while she was at work, decommissioning an old military base called LIZ-4. The base was part of the Cold War missile detection line up north. You know, the Cold War stuff, making sure the commies didn't send any nukes our way, or nukes down south of the Canadian border. So we were the first line of defense up there. And alongside a colleague, which we are given the false name of Isaac, just for like confidentiality and such, they were tasked with cataloging things inside of the base and making sure like it was all good and ready to go for demolition. Like make sure nobody had like been tampering with anything inside of it. I'm gonna skip a lot of details because this is about a 24-page long story. So just FYI. The computer, she finds a computer while they're in the base, and it is a modified IBM 5150 that was wired to the wall, and at first didn't seem to have anything on it, save for a connection to the ARPANET, which is the old military inter-network. It is on this computer that Mom, which I'm going to be referring to the character, contacts someone or something named Central. Over several talks, all of which are unauthorized, we discover at first that Central is a computer and is in charge of calculating procedures to do with launching missiles at Russia during the Cold War. You know, again, that old chestnut, mutually assured destruction, counter strikes against the commies, blah, 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 blah. When Mom tries to dissuade Central from these actions, updating him, or it, on the peaceful status of the conflict, it becomes upset and in denial that such a peaceful outcome could occur. It then kicks Mom out of the system and she retreats back to town. Things get a bit dicey in the days following, as a man in black is seen skulking around and Mom becomes convinced that she is being monitored, even afraid that she will be taken and disappear for what she knows and has seen / talked to. In the dead of night, and before her final flight back to the States, she travels out to the base and communicates with Central one last time in an attempt to shut it down. It is in this dialogue that we discover Central is no mere machine, but a human who has been conditioned to function as a computer, possibly wired into a system, and locked away in some secretive location since 1969. It then attempts to launch missiles, and Mom freaks out, followed by the power going out. She slips on some ice and loses time, eventually coming to, and uses the last bit of fuel in the generator to unlock the doors, since they electrically lock as soon as the power goes out. However, she needs to see if Central has said anything further since she was away from the computer, literally AFK. Central did in fact leave messages to Mom, along with a pre-made message to the American people that proclaims some hope for the future post-nuclear strike. A fountain of youth is referenced. The final message notes that Central self-terminated, and that's that. Mom goes on the run after this, leaving her daughter to the care and use of the government, or whoever was at work here, to try and bait Mom out of hiding. Years go by. The daughter, the daughter's monitoring from the government and whatnot is eventually kind of like loosened enough, and the daughter also has the first journal entry, or the first journal that her mom wrote all her like findings and stuff on, which tell the first half of this story, leading up to her last trip to the base. And she's kept that hidden from the government people since then. Later in life, she received a second journal chronicling the last half of the story that we just read, and a promise from her mom that she would be rescued, and they would bring this shadow organization down together. The sign-off is then from our hero, the Cold Relics dude, commenting on the story, and then noting that they may know what the Fountain of Youth was a reference to. In that last little like bit of like dialogue, it was kind of referenced and just like, what the fuck is this sort of thing. But our hero seems to know what that is, and then that's where the story kind of ends. So, the end for now. Until next story. But yeah, that's the rundown. Again, there's a lot more details in there that I kind of skimmed through, but we I didn't want to be here all day.
That's fair.
Yeah. So we shall move on to everyone tolerates like grammar inquisitions at this point. Wow, and I literally am going to start with this quote. At this point, she stops writing. Then how are we getting more of the story? And then as things are happening fast, and instead summarizing the events that follow. Oh, okay. So like, I had a bit of a gamer moment here where like they shot the person, bang, a glance. Oh God.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like at this point she stopped writing as things are happening fast, and instead summarizing the events that follow. So, oh, okay. It's like, stopped writing. So why is there still like 10 more pages?
Calling that story's bullshit.
Yeah. So that's all I had for grammar, because I know there was I saw a lot of conjunction junctions and its story bit kind of fodder, but I'm not going to touch those with a 10-foot pole because that's Mikey's territory. But otherwise, I didn't really take note of anything serious in terms of like grammar or spelling. So, Mikey, these stands for evil. Prove me wrong.
All right, I got a couple here.
Okay.
And the quote: "Small problem. The crew knocked a hole in the wall at one spot. Probably the accident."
I'm sorry. What? Can you repeat that sentence?
Small problem. The crew knocked a hole in the wall at one spot. Probably be accident.
Okay. All right.
So
So for some reason, the early part of I like it's like the small like I thought there was I don't know. Hey, okay.
I think they said clue.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
But either way, the correction is be accident, apparently.
Well, the correction is by accident.
Yeah, by accident.
Yes, I meant the correction is on be accident.
Yep.
Now, my counter to this, to any grammar in this story, when it comes to the transcription of a journal entry, is that we know that this character is scribbling these down like really fast, like these writings, and their daughter has transcribed them exactly. So it's how the character writes
When under duress.
under duress and in a panic. However, we are al dente rigor mortis. We are critically silly, always. So, by all means, continue with your grammar inquisition.
All right. My next note here is a run-on sentence that was also confusing to read. So it also follows the what Review Calls was talking about with the shot and then like shooting someone a glance.
Yeah.
So I'll read it here. But before the lapse in security was discovered, my privileges were revoked and I was court-martialed. I chose to at least find out as much as I could about the machine that had seemingly unlimited and shadowy reach over our country's deadliest armaments.
Yeah, I definitely tripped over this sentence like twice. Like I had to reread. It's like, wait, what? Oh, okay. It's okay. So, what is it trying to say there, Mikey? Do you...
It's trying to say that before her privileges were revoked and she ended up being court-martialed, she did as much to find out as much as she could about the machine and its reach over the armament. But the way it's written, it sounds like before the lapse of security was discovered, my privileges were revoked. Like,
Yeah. If it had stopped right there, that's how that would have made more and more sense. But yeah, it's interesting because like yeah, we both tripped over that sentence. Like I definitely had to reread that like twice.
Yeah.
I was fine with it.
Well, aren't you special?
I am.
You are the specialist boy.
That being said, I probably have it in my freaking notes and I don't even notice it.
Yeah.
Knowing my luck.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then my last one here before the conjunction junction is a 2-word sentence that should just be combined into the previous sentence.
Okay.
So, but I guess I should keep things brief as possible. So just combine
Really?
that. I guess I should keep things as brief as possible.
Yeah.
As possible with its own sentence?
Yeah, they punctuate again. It's for punctuation and exclamation. But yeah, honestly, it should have just been the same. It should be one sentence. It's very jot note form. But again, it's a journal entry. But yeah.
Because this is going to be a long conjunction junction.
Oh, so should I sit down?
If you're not, then yes.
All right, hang on. Got to stand up. Stretch. And then sit down again. All right. And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
It's not so much that I want to be scared or seek thrill. It makes me nervous when I think about who might be waiting for it to show up again. But I also believe that this writing needs to survive. It takes place in Alaska, about as far as you could get both in location and mindset from my native Florida. But we were happy. It would have been a complicated answer. but she was there to help decommission a station that once played a part in the Cold War which surrounded her life. And it's strange that in those dreams, the sun is never as bright as it should be. So, is this what people write about in journals? But I guess I should keep things brief. It had already been officially taken offline a year ago, but for some reason, it was kept running with either a skeleton crew or no one at all. It doesn't have its radar running, so it's useless as a warning station now anyway. It has just 2 running red lights on the exterior to signal its presence in the dark. It would all be shut down within a month, but our job wasn't to erase or destroy anything. But it was still chugging along on backup power, with only its exterior lights running. It was old, rust everywhere, really industrial, some unsafe wiring and machinery. So we hurried and finished up our work. It was definitely an IBM model, but it was a little different than anything from the company that I had seen. It was also screwed down onto a rusted metal desk, its paint almost chipped off entirely. It must have been at least a slightly newer model than I had thought, because I could hear the loud clacking of a hard drive inside of it as it came to life. But the hard drive hadn't been completely wiped. It still had some programs, and I could tell that it was set up to connect to ARPANET, then the close to obsolete original government and military network. But that telecommunication system didn't even reach Alaska. But the hard drive began to click, telling me that the computer was still processing something. It never asked for one. It could be our slow connection, or he took time to think out every reply. It was a minute past 10. But I wondered if I should have mentioned this central to anyone else, and how I would ever get back to LIZ-4 to continue our conversation, which up to this point had yet to really begin. But yesterday I got a phone call telling me that due to the last month's ongoing bad weather, decommissioning was continuously delayed. But talking computers are just a thing of science fiction. It did verify my identification, right? But I was a nobody in the military. But Central still accepted it just the same. It sounded crazy, but what if it was suddenly up to me to tell the computer otherwise, and to ease up its trigger finger on our nukes? But I'm going back one more time. Or if I should say anything at all. It wasn't my job to try and talk down a computer from a role that it had been faithfully serving for perhaps decades. But before this lapse in security was discovered, My privileges were revoked, and I was court-martialed. I chose to at least find out as much as I could about this machine that had seemingly unlimited and shadowy reach over our country's deadliest armament. It was a long ride back home, and I listened to the only radio station I could pick up. But I still have a report to file. It's just flagrant, like it's taunting me. It doesn't belong up here. It's too nice, and it sticks out like a sore thumb against all the ice. But I know what I did. But it wouldn't end there, because now I think that doing so could only mean that I'm not there for you. But I don't think I'll make it until then. But I have to figure this out. And if I'm very lucky, maybe this will get out. Or maybe convince it that it's got everything all wrong. But I'm never saying who it is. And that little journal, chronicling just a small and strange part of her life, was all I had. It was a lonely, isolated place to grow up. It would be a mistake to remove them. But I found out how to work around them and stay out of sight. So I already knew how to be sneaky. But when I graduated, I moved out and my restrictions loosened some. But I was secretly still hopeful. But then it would just sit on my computer waiting to be discovered. And if they found it, nothing would stop them from finding the original and taking it away. It was a second journal, nearly identical in size and shape to the first. It was beyond my most hopeful expectations. It finished a decades-long story that was now embedded into my being and set the stage for a sequel following a bittersweet epilogue. And while I know they probably already had their own transcript of the second journal, I also needed to digitize it myself. And whoever these people are, I'm not sure if they're actually with the government. And wherever she goes, that Teddy and my story will follow. It's pitch black. But I do think that this almost completely unlisted station was run by the military, at least at one point. But he's supposed to respond if it's an emergency. It's my last, only chance. It's like I'm penning an alternate universe. It's hard to remember clearly what happened after the execution script appeared. It looked hardened against EMPs. And upon realizing that, I also remembered that I had a weapon with me. But that wouldn't fix anything. And anyway, I figured all I had to do was restart the generator. It's hard to recall. But I know that I lost time. It had been hours. It sputtered, but started, if barely. It had come back on, as expected. But I turned around and hesitated. It still feels bizarre, otherworldly, self-satirizing, depraved. It was difficult. But in the end, he became a living machine. It's very possible that Central's abilities were much too antiquated to activate our arsenal. And it's possible that he did try everything at his disposal, made some success in getting inside, but was fought back by military commanders who saw him as a virtual saboteur. It was too late. It's too dangerous to let me go free. So he helped smuggle me out of the state back to the mainland. It doesn't matter if I only understand a little bit of it, and I will find you. But I've kept it safe and hidden. It's always been there, on the road with me. It's taken me many years, but over that time I've engaged in a small, graceful war with them. It's raining outside my motel. It was the last time I saw the old man in sunglasses. But I learned. It's 2014 now. But not everything has. But if it counts.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. Continue.
Sorry, yeah.
It's 2014 now, but not everything has. It's like, what does that even mean? Sorry. Sorry. Continue.
If it counts, I did manage to get a copy of your high school and college graduation videos. But my priority is to see you again. And I think I know of this reference to the Fountain of Youth. Finn.
I don't know that any of these snaps are working over my mic, but
No, they're
I'm
not.
snapping. Damn it. Okay, I'm gonna have to make an asset for finger snapping.
Totally.
So now that we've separated the wheat from the chaff, the normies and the casuals from our diehard listeners and fans. Oh man. Again,
That was a lot.
I understand that this is again, I was saying earlier, and I'm a proponent of this is how somebody would write in a journal. God damn, that's a lot of conjunctions and its at the beginning of sentences. Jesus. I'm suddenly very glad that I skimmed down my rundown to the bare essentials.
But it's 2014.
But not everything has.
Yeah. And I like how at the end of the of your conjunction there, it made it sound like Mother knew what the Fountain of Youth was all about. And constantly through that, it was hard to keep track of who was actually talking. So when it went to sections where the daughter was talking, there was no transition. So it seemed like the whole thing was just the mother talking about everything.
Yeah, and also because there was no reference, I don't think you referenced ever about their time in Nevada. It made it sound like they went from Florida to Barrow, Alaska, which is I feel like that's the worst. That is the worst hell you can be or you can have, living in the hell state that is Florida, because it is goddamn hot and everything's trying to kill you.
Yeah, totally.
To the coldest town in America, literally the farthest north in America you can get is Barrow, Alaska. It is the farthest town north in Alaska. Yeah.
You can't get much more opposite than that.
Yeah, you really can't. It's exactly the thermally clashing dynamics here.
Thermal shock.
Yeah. Yeah, so you get jet lag, and then you get just thermal shock as soon as you exit the plane. Wow. And
the reason Mikey does this is because there's a lot of sentences, like starting sentences with its, ands, or buts, generally not the best option in most stories.
Yes.
Because, there's better words to do that.
Mhm.
Buts are meant to be in the middle of sentences or behind you, not in front of things. Never in front.
However, again, this is how a lot of people write, and it is a journal. So it's kind of adds to the immersion, but at the same time, we're being critically silly.
Yeah.
But yeah. So do you have anything else there, Mikey?
No, that's it for my grammar inquisition.
Okay. Then I guess we move on to gamer.
Okay. This was am I the only one stupid enough that for sectioning out my notes and grammar stuff by the year and the date?
Yeah.
Cool. That's fine. Either way, January 26th, early on, or whatever. I think I was early on. Yeah, this is on the first excursion out to the LIZ-4 station. On the way out of the station's basement, I happened to notice something tucked under the one stairwell in the place, under its metal grated stairs. I kind of find the whole "in the place" part isn't really needed, because to me, the first time reading it, it sounded like it was saying, on the way out of the station's basement, I happened to notice something tucked under the one stairwell in the station's basement. Like, it was kind of like repeating the same thing.
Like, they mostly come at night. Mostly.
Yeah. So that could just be removed to, on the way out of the station's basement, I happened to notice something tucked under the one stairwell under the metal grated stair. Actually, that's double as well.
Yeah, it's quadrupled.
Yeah. On the way out of the station's basement, I happened to notice something tucked under the stairs. Under the metal grated stairs. Just the one mention of stairs is all you need.
Yeah.
However, unless they're trying to emphasize the fact that there's only one stairwell in the entire building, then it would be, on the way out of the station's basement, I happened to notice something tucked under the only stairwell in the whole station, under its metal grated stairs.
Yeah. Or
and
under
then it's still kind of doubling.
Oh, hang on. Actually, correction for that. Under its metal grated steps.
Yeah.
That way, it's not saying the same word, but it's describing the stairwell still.
Yes. If that is, in fact, the case, that there's only one stairwell in the whole place.
Yes.
Which I think he was trying to get at.
That's what I assumed. Yeah.
And that's all I got.
Okay. So we can move forward with actual thoughts then. So I got this one here. This is the very start of the story. I got into the deep web, where individuals feel like they need the additional security of truly anonymous browsing. The stories on this level aren't much different than those that appear on the surface, and many make their way up there in time anyway. Maybe some writers simply think that hiding a new urban legend in the depths makes for a scarier, truer story. With them comes the impression that they had to be concealed to the wider public. So my knee-jerk reaction was a groan when I heard deep web, because deep web.
Of course, yeah.
It's sort of a trope when it comes to the stories that we discuss on the show. However, as I kept reading this paragraph, it actually presented the deep web in a more realistic and grounded way to me, or probably more accurate way to me. Like, it's basically just a slightly more anonymous level of the internet, of browsing and posting shit.
Yeah, because you actually have to know how to get on the deep web to get there.
Exactly, which I find
just Googling it.
Yeah, it's not because really, what the deep web is just a series of websites that are a little bit more encrypted than others because of illegal and explicit purposes. So I do feel like this paragraph and this story kind of sheds light on the deep web with a little bit more grounded reality.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually okay with it after my initial knee-jerk reaction.
It's funny that you mentioned this. I kind of figured you'd bring it up. I have a note here that basically, I just want to ask.
Counters your opinion.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I basically just wanted to ask, so it's been a while since there's been a story about the deep web or had the deep web in it to any real extent.
Mhm.
What is it that fascinates you so much about occultists? Maybe it's not fascination, but like whenever it's brought up, you seem both excited and disappointed at the same time.
I think it's because the deep web has, like, given like the nature of the stories that we discuss on the show, like creepypastas are internet urban legends and spooky stories that are told through cyberspace. It's sort of, the deep web itself for me is sort of got the same kind of gravitas as like Bigfoot does or like Atlantis does. However, like in that it is kind of got legendary status in itself of just existing and like it has stories on its own about it. My problem is that some people go way too far with it, and people use it so damn often as this end all, like is just sort of like a cop out. It's like, oh well, I found this story on the deep web, so it's spooky. I think it's just like initially I was like, ooh, the deep web, oh, it's spooky, and then like it's illicit, and like people sell drugs and like snuff and shit on it, and like that's fucking creepy as shit. The problem is people have overused it in stories, so it's sort of like I've been oversaturated over time.
Yeah, fair.
With the deep web, like as an excuse as to where the story came from. Like it's like people either get like spooky artifacts or shit from garage sales, thrift stores, or the deep web in creepypastas. It's literally a tropish location.
The holy triforce of gathering mystical shit.
Yeah. It's like in the old days of horror, you got it from a creepy uncle. You got shit from a creepy uncle, or from a mystic antiquities shop, like in in Chinatown, or some like cabin in the woods. Like those are like that was the old trifecta. The new trifecta is literally garage sales, thrift stores, and the deep web.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
thank you for elaborating on that.
Yeah, no worries. So I guess I can move on.
No.
Okay. Oh, you still have more?
No.
Okay. Would you like to expand on that? No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Thank you, David Lynch.
You're welcome.
That's his thing. It's
I
like,
know.
you know, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film. Could you elaborate on that? No. You glorious son of a bitch.
Yeah, really.
Anyway, I'll move on. Yeah, unfortunately, Gamer, you were the smart one and actually like categorize these into like where they are in the story, like because the story is kind of logged like by journal entries.
I don't know why
I didn't do
I did
any
it.
of that.
Considering I started reading it this morning.
Yeah.
While busy doing other shit, but here I am, just doing my dumbness.
It's okay.
It doesn't matter.
You will kind of get where this one is because the post note is in my quote here. But I also believed that this writing needs to survive. It takes place in Alaska, about as far as you can get, both in location and mindset, from my native Florida. We might as well be worlds apart. And then posted on 5/15/14 at 6:04 a.m. I'm not going to say much on the outset. I will simply tell you that I'm here to post entries from my mother's journal. So this story has a narrator within a narrator within a narrator. To keep to the theme of the Cold Relics stories, this is a Matryoshka story. Like,
yeah,
we have a narrator who's recovered this story from the deep web, which was posted on the deep web by a third party for the narrator who's commentating on the story within their mother's journal that they've been transcribing. Wow.
That's how it is.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, just like the Inception music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit.
But moving on. The only background I want to reveal right now is that we lived together in the cold town of Barrow, Alaska. And so my initial assume, like I'm reading the story. This is my first comment, like on the story. Like this is like the early part of the story, and I'm just like, is there going to be vampires involved in this? Because that's my little 30 Days of Night reference joke here. I'll just leave now.
Right?
30 Days of Night, which was a movie based off a comic book, is about the town of Barrow, Alaska, being invaded and slaughtered by vampires because they have 30 day. Well, apparently it's 60 days of night, but it's 30 days of night where it's like eternally night. It's nighttime for 30 days, because of the Arctic.
Yeah.
And I think that's. I mean, I love that fucking movie because that's fucking brilliant. Like vampires just stalking around the north because they don't have to worry about the sun.
Yeah, that is perfect.
Yeah, and like it basically they just go in and they just like hunt, and it also kind of is a good explanation for all the ghost towns that exist. Like aside from the fact that just like people would leave the cold, it would also explain why there's so many ghost towns up north.
Oh yeah.
But I digress. I had to get that in because yeah. Apparently I stole that from Adam from RPX.
Oh, okay.
I discovered like I was talking to them on their podcast, and apparently like Adam is
He's the digressman for them.
Yeah, he digresses like very hard. Like that's apparently an in joke with them. It's like that Adam just says I digress.
Oh, okay.
So apparently the mimetic virus has infected me. Thanks, Adam. But I'll move right along.
I like how you picked a different word for that now.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it.
Move right along.
Move right along. Footloose and fancy free.
That's from the Muppets movie, for those not in the know.
Yeah. Muppets, is it just the Muppet movie, or is it like
I'm pretty sure it's the Muppet movie, like the original one.
Yeah. Anyway, the machine was like a 5150 model from 1981, but it was a bit bulkier or wider. It was also screwed down onto a rusted metal desk. Its paint almost chipped off entirely. The monitor was one of those classic green phosphorus screens synonymous with the early computing era. I was already at the machine as Isaac started the generator, and when it automatically booted up, a spark flew out from somewhere in the mismatch of wiring behind it. It must have been at least a slightly newer model than I had thought, because I could hear the loud clacking of a hard drive inside of it as it came to life. The keyboard was equally noisy, and some of the keys stuck. The poor thing probably hadn't been touched in years. So, and it was about this point that I realized that as I've been reading this and reading it further on, like as the story goes on, that the more we read of Cold Relic stories, the more I think on stuff like Tales from the Loop, which is all about weird advanced science just plopped into the 1980s suburban living. Like as a result of a particle collider being that is in operation like right before the 80s and revealing a bunch of strange truths about the universe in an alternate history. So like we suddenly get like flying like basically hover machines like using anti-gravity and magnetism. And then we have like time portals opening up and dinosaurs roaming around, and robotics and machinery and like AI becomes a lot more advanced. Yet they're still using like the aesthetics of the machinery and stuff like that is still like kind of seated in the 1980s. Jesus Christ! Fucking ant just climbed up out of my onto my desk like a massive one. So it sort of like that story sort of delves into like mundane horror angle of this kind of of like advanced technology, like kind of mingling with like the 1980s. And at the very least, it would be I could see the system because Tales from the Loop, on top of being a series of narrative art books by Simon Stalenhag, they're also now a tabletop RPG by Free League. That's basically like where you're playing as like teenagers interacting in a world of the 80s like suburbia, but with like advanced technology. So like there might be you could run laser tag basically in it. Like have some kids find a secret government like project that was basically like actual laser tag guns, or the kids intercept ARPANET, and talk with an AI that is not an AI, as we find out later on. And especially at the very end of this story story where we discover the truth behind Central, and that he is in fact a human that has been conditioned and modified to be a computer, like a living computer. You can have that in the tabletop RPG version of Tales from the Loop, but you could also do it in the sequel to Tales from the Loop, which is Things from the Flood, which is the darker sequel to Tales from the Loop, where it delves a little bit more into like a bunch of weird anomalies that have been popping up as a result of sort of elaborating on the development of technology, of these advanced technologies, kind of going further with like basically going further a decade. And shit has gone wrong. Like some of the machines start developing like bioorganic components inside of it. Like they call it the machine cancer, as a result of like the weird like dimensional research that's been going on. So again, basically my ramblings here is just to say that I was getting some Tales from the Loop and Things from the Flood vibes, as a result of my further reading stories set in the Cold Relics canon. So this is kind of me just forcing in a kitchen segment of like, I know how I would use these for game fodder.
Fair.
But I digress.
You hate saying that now, don't you?
now I'm conscious about it. I also wanted this is the quote here. My next quote. My next quote here. I also wanted to see if I could still connect to ARPANET. Despite the comms line we had, I didn't think that it would actually work. After a few failed inputs, I typed in one that worked and actually managed to get connected to a very basic list of network options. So I read this part, and part of me doesn't think that she would, like, for some reason I read this part where like she's trying to like she's checking she's there on this job to just like check things and make sure like things like see if things run or if they can find anything. She puts in one or two inputs, doesn't get anything. That should be where it stops. Like logically, like realistically, this story probably would have stopped before it even got started. Because it feels like I feel like if you're gonna have this kind of prompt, have her like right off the hop, like not expecting to connect to ARPANET or whatever, but like get it on the first try. Because the way it's explained in this, like she puts in a few more inputs, and it's like, no, I don't think you would, like, given your job details, like you probably wouldn't be. It just seemed kind of unrealistic to me that she like wouldn't stop after like one or two attempts. On the computer to try and connect to ARPANET or whatever the connection was.
I mean, you say that, but they're there to find out any information that's there, and this is the only lead they've had for any information.
Yeah, I know, but like, I don't know. It just seemed like the way it was written. I feel like the prompt like to like connect should have happened like basically like the first one, like the first attempt, rather than go through the rigmarole of like, oh, I decided to check it just one more time. Like, I don't know. It just seemed a little a little off to me.
I don't think she was typing in the same thing every time. I think she was typing in the wrong words.
Yeah, she was typing in multiple prompts, but I don't know. It just seemed, again, I'm not in a field like that. I don't know the bureaucracy. Like, she does seem like a little bit more diligent than Isaac. Like, I think Isaac was just ready to get out of there. It seems like, and we do find out later, like she gets very obsessive compulsive on things. So, like real fast. Like that's part of my notes actually coming up. So maybe it makes sense. I feel like you could have just had her like had the prompt pop up like first try rather than have a few attempts. So
Yeah. And,
But, yeah.
and I think part of the problem too is that she checked the computer for files, didn't find any locally,
Mhm.
and so she decides to connect to the ARPANET, which is a network where the files aren't stored locally, if there are
Yeah.
files there at all. So
Yeah.
it wasn't needed to be done in the first place, really.
Yeah, she was just like it seemed like she was just testing. Like, well, you know what? We got. I see that there is a connect. We can connect to ARPANET. Let's see if I can actually attempt it. Because I mean, I don't even think it would go this far up north. Like it references like that she didn't even think the ARPANET got this far north.
Mhm.
So, but again, you could also counter that with like, well, that seems kind of fishy. Then maybe she would try a few more times to see if she could get there. But
Yeah, because it's so weird.
yeah, because it is an outstanding anomaly on the computer. But I don't know. It kind of bugged me when I read it, and it's like out of all the things that the story has presented, that was the one that kind of glared at me the most. So
Mhm.
probably because the rest of it's right for the most part. um, actually, yeah. So talking about my idea, so when I said like things happen a little bit too quickly in the story, and her obsession, for example, this is my quote. My initial thought was that no human being would know how many days right off the bat. Then I assumed that they just checked some data for the answer. Still, one of my favorite movies is 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I did believe it was entirely possible that I was speaking to a HAL type computer. And to this I was just like, that was fast. Like, I feel like this might even also be a grammar position. Like, did you mean still one of my favorite movies is 2001: A Space Odyssey, but I didn't believe I was entirely that it was entirely like I just like you just right off the hop, like as soon as you hear like a very accurate number of days that they have been that they hadn't had contact with Barrow with the or with the with LIZ-4 base, you immediately think that you're talking to an AI.
Well, she is on an IBM.
Oh, okay.
And one of the tidbits of trivia is that HAL is actually IBM, but the letters are moved over one.
See, I kind of wish the story had given a little bit more context on that because I've never spoilers. I've never seen 2001: A Space Odyssey. I know of. I can't do that, Dave. I'm sorry, Dave.
Mhm.
Like I'm aware of that, and I'm aware of a big red blinky light, but I've never actually seen. I don't think I've ever actually like sat down and like seen the computer monitor that HAL is on. I just know the screen that has the giant red circle.
The whole IBM thing is just a joke that the um, director, I guess, put in. Like, would we name this computer in the future? Well, let's name it HAL after IBM, but not being IBM.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Okay, because I'm literally checking my phone. God damn it. Okay. Wait.
It's after H.
Oh, okay. That I thought it was like keyboard. I'm stupid. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, you're
Don't worry,
right.
I didn't understand what the hell he was talking about either.
Yeah, no. I before A or I after H, and then A or B or A is after. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. It just seemed. I don't know, it seemed kind of weird that like they jump to that conclusion that they're talking to an AI like right off the hop. But I guess there are some context clues. Like she does just immediately say it's like one of her favorite movies is the 2001: A Space Odyssey. So maybe she's aware of the IBM connection there. And also like again, I know the movie or like again this story like has some plot. It has to get moving along. But the story as the story follows, Mom really starts obsessing over Central, like right off the hop, even too. Like, is it that lonely in Barrow that you practically start falling for this mysterious connection over the military's ancient internet?
Yes.
Like, because it does seem like
Nothing to do up
I
there.
kind of got like a pararomantic sort of like connection there at the very beginning. It doesn't go anywhere. It's like, thankfully it doesn't go anywhere, but it does seem like it's like she gets really infatuated with this computer this computer person, like right off the hop.
I never saw it go that level.
Hang on a second. So
All right.
I didn't. This is the quote that kind of got me. It's like I didn't mention my new mysterious friend, but I thought about him all through the truck drive back home. It's just like
Okay.
that line in particular, and like the fact that like they start infatuating. Oh, not again, like that went away. Like it was my first like my knee jerk like reaction to that quote, but then as it went on, it's really more just like she becomes really obsessed. Like every protagonist we've encountered in these cold storage stories, they just get really obsessed really fast.
Yeah. I think the problem is it's a woman with a potentially male person that they're talking to, so you're kind of automatically
there's a bit of a
going
gender
with a
bias, I
romance.
guess, maybe.
Automatically going to like a romance angle because it's a woman. If it was a dude talking to another
Maybe.
dude, you wouldn't immediately think that they're like, look, if you're up in the Antarctic or the Arctic, Antarctic is the other way. If you're up in the Arctic and you run into a freaking computer AI from the Cold War, wouldn't you be thinking about it all the way home?
That is true. You do present a very good point. Hey, again, I might be just showing my bias here, and for that I apologize to anybody listening. It did only pop up for like the first my knee jerk reaction. Also because I'm a sucker for pararomantic shit like monster romances and stuff. But it is also like something that like you would like you wouldn't like cultist, you wouldn't be thinking like you wouldn't be obsessing over the fact that you just discovered a Cold War AI.
That's just Tuesday.
I know, yeah. But yeah, and actually I have another another example of like her obsession like just kicking in real fast. And I think this is like shortly after they get back back to Barrow, like the first that first night. And this is like the next journal entry. I've been thinking of ways I could get back out to the station for a few weeks now. I just want one more turn on that computer during Central's working hours. I just need one more hit of Central's talking time. Like it becomes at this point like it kind of seems almost like like the obsession is an addiction.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's like I just need one more hit. Need one more hit of Central. But yeah, gonna move on here. This is like there's a reference that's made that I think is a reference to Kittyland. So on a strange note, one inactive location stood out in the list. There was some place that must have been in Florida that Central was once connected to, and it didn't have a typical site ID. And then in brackets, another note added later in bracket, FL facility variable offline dash what is this ? So yeah, like it seemed like this is probably like again like it was the site in Florida, the Kittyland site, which is like dealing with like weird hallucination, like kind of psychotropic or like reality bending project. Like seems like a nice little Easter egg to Kittyland. And it would make sense that Central might have a connection to that since it is this top secret military project that was connected to a bunch of bases across North America. And I will move on to the next one here. Everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. I mean, everything changed when damn it, I fucked up. I fumbled over that after doing that. Everything changed when my angel came to me again on one of my rare days out. During a moment when my guards weren't watching me in public, or in a public space, they came by and slipped something in my hand. It was a second journal, nearly identical in size and shape to the first. It was beyond my most hopeful expectations. Not only was my mother keeping an eye on me from afar, she was also simply still alive in the first place, still fighting, discovering, or hiding, if that was the only thing she could do. So it's interesting as the story goes on, how the story went from a conspiratorial like horror, with like the revelation from the mother, like of like, oh no, the government was using an AI during the Cold War. Like other stories probably would have ended with like that being like the big thread. Like she discovered this weird computer that was talking back to her, and then it got the site got decommissioned. That was that. This story continues though into a conspiratorial thriller with a little low-key subterfuge with the daughter of the woman who wrote down the journal and discovered Central in that basin of LIZ-4. And it elaborates further like a decade later. Like it kind of goes into like she's on the lam now. She's still trying to like watch out for her daughter, but also trying to evade this shadow organization that's apparently behind things. I don't know why, but I wasn't expecting this development, and I don't necessarily hate it because it's an interesting plot point, or it's an interesting like narrative thread to follow. And not unwelcome when it comes to like secret government organizations and projects. And then I have this, and then I have this one here. They won't hurt me. They still need me to get to my mother. And whoever these people are, I'm not sure if they're actually with the government. I've always seen them as too smart. Oh, take that, government.
Yeah, really.
That's all I got for that comment. And then here's another one that like I had to correct myself when I was reading, but I'll just dive into it. Do you so this is Central talking. Do you by chance believe that you are speaking with an advanced supercomputer? For example, HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey? How is he aware of a character from a movie? How? This makes no, and then the sentence ends. And to me, I wanted to fill it in sense, because this part bugged me for a minute as like, how did this man-sheen, this living machine, this human conditioned to be a computer since 1969, how did he have this like access to this pop culture reference and not know that not have updated intel on the status of the Cold War? Until I actually looked up the date for Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is 1968. So it's a tight window, but it is conceivable that the human that would later that would a year later become Central was aware of that film before going into the program, or perhaps they had all the accumulated pop culture and like access to information prior to their just prior to their creation or launch.
You're assuming he was a adult or something when he became Central.
Yeah,
that's true.
He
yeah,
could have been like tube grown, and in
that is also
'69 he was a little baby.
That is true. That's why I'm also saying, like, why I'm also like construing the theory that perhaps they just had all of the information prior to the project, like had access to all to like government and cultural information in America prior to 1969. Hence why, or I guess prior to everything suddenly going dark and like them not knowing the current information. But yeah, it's just like also. What? He was human this whole time? Like this threw me off. Like when it popped up. And just to continue on with that thread, here's the quote after that. All that matters now is that I am serving my country faithfully. Wires, tubes, and hardware have limits. People can fill a hole in computing that, from what I understand, is still an early technology. But the practical application of these machines can be translated into a superior system. You are not a system. You are someone who is trapped in suffering. I am not suffering. There is no pain. There is only function. We are the Borg. Sorry, I added that last bit. And then Mom continues, do you know where you are? Let me find you. I can help you. The people who control you have to answer for this. And then Central says, I cannot let you interfere. They may terminate me like they did the others. I cannot let this happen before I fulfill my mandate. And to this I was like, whoa. So this started off sort of like a regular like AI setup where like we discover that the person on the other end of the computer is in fact an AI or a computer system, like a machine. And then it gets really creepy with this implication that like, no, it's a person that's been programmed to act like a machine. Like they didn't have an advanced enough computer system back in the 60s, so they used the most advanced computer they knew of at the time, which was the human brain. So this implication that the government using that kind of like technological symbiosis with a human, it sort of also reminds me of Project Overlord, the DLC in the Mass Effect series, where they're using a human directly interfaced with the VIs, like with the virtual intelligences of that universe, to try and get an upper hand in cyber security and military finesse without using a full-on AI. And the idea that like there were more of them, it's just like there's something mentioned earlier or like later in the story, like after he self-terminates it, like later in the story, and our mom is unable to rescue him. I think it would be really interesting and kind of really even more tragic for this story because like Mom is thinking that that Central is somewhere far away, like in another facility secretly away. But what if he's actually in a sub-level beneath LIZ-4? And like just hardwired into that computer terminal on the surface. Like maybe these bases that they're decommissioning, like the reason why Central has lost communication with the other beings, the other units like him, as he mentions later on. What if what if he's actually like, it makes it kind of tragic because like she was literally like a couple of like a floor or two down below him, like above him this whole time.
Yeah.
Like, and it was just because she even references like the ARPANET she didn't think the ARPANET reached this far, so how was she able to connect to it to get to him? Maybe it wasn't so much that it was just hardlined down into like a sub level of this base this entire time, and so close yet so far, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and yeah, it just makes you think it's like so and that's maybe why they're decommissioning this project, that like this base that is like barely on anybody's records, is because it is Central as well. LIZ-4 is Central. But yeah, that's my note on the Project Overlord and or like the revelation that Central is more than a computer. He was once a man, or is a man who acts as a computer for some sick, twisted government project. The next couple of comments are a little bit sillier than that one. So this is during that little like that prefab like message that was going to go out to the like the emergency broadcast system. The second America is coming. We have the ability to make it. And that's where it stops. However, I'm really glad it didn't continue with "make it great again," because that would have been truly the most horrific statement in this entire story.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And then we get the comment about the woman that mom is commenting about this like prefab like kind of arrangement of like post-nuclear strike and like the advertisement, like who would have like built up this whole like this whole like kind of contingency plan and stuff like that. So here's the quote: "Just what has this country sold its soul to? Could there actually be people out there just waiting to cash in on doomsday? It still feels bizarre, otherworldly, self-satirizing, depraved. Second America? A new world order? I can't." And then it cuts off. Like literally in brackets it says cuts off. And honestly, to me, this just sounds like Vault Tech from the Fallout series. Like, and Fallout was a satirized version of American like nuclear politics and shit. And Vault Tech in that series is very much like they're making their entire business plan is about surviving the apocalypse. So, and conducting research on maybe the author of this story had a little bit of inspiration from the Fallout series, maybe, or it could just be regular Cold War fears and stuff like that. That was in fact what Fallout was satirizing. And then I think I'm going to leave off with my last quote here. So it references at the end, like it references in that little advert to the EBS that the Fountain of Youth, like we have the Fountain of Youth, and then our hero, or like our first level narrator. Referencing at the end here, they know they know of this reference to the Fountain of Youth because they may have already found it. So I'm wondering if that is going to be a segue to the next story, which is according to my quick research here, the next story is going to be a story called The Electric Rabbit in the Cold Storage series. So I'm curious if that is possibly the next, like kind of like a nice little segue to the sequel, or like sequel baiting basically.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first I was like, was that a reference to the Florida thing? Because I mean, the Fountain of Youth is kind of a like there in the legends and stories of the Fountain of Youth, it is set in Florida, so maybe like they're referencing Kittyland, but that makes no sense to me. So yeah, I'm wondering if I guess we'll find out next story. If the Fountain of Youth was a reference to the next story. So, but that is my actual thoughts for the time being until I interrupt you guys. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil.
My first quote here is about the Central.
Mhm.
So, are you a brain in a jar or something? I found your notions of me humorous, her name. No, I still have legs and arms, but I no longer have use for them, or need them. I have not seen sunlight since I became operational in 1969. I, I just like how we suddenly get a description of basically someone plugged into a machine.
Yeah, no, it's a really good like. I think it's a really good twist.
Mhm.
And the way it's
Like that-
described is also kind of creepy.
The way that wording says too, Central was a normal person before. Like he wasn't a test tube baby, basically based on that, because it says I haven't seen sun since 1969,
Yeah.
which implies that Central has seen sun previously.
Yeah. So your previous counterattack against me was null and void.
Yeah. Sure.
Yes. I did it. No, sorry.
So my next actual thought here is where I sort of stumbled in the story. And it's with the electronically locked door. we only really get mentioned that the door locks when the power goes out when it's convenient in the story.
Yeah, wait a minute. Hang on. Sorry, not to cut you off. I'm gonna let you finish. To steal from Gamer. Didn't earlier in the story they had to open the door through a padlock
Well,
on the outside?
yeah. Like there's a key to open the door, but that same door is electronically locked if there's no power.
And they had to start the generator on the inside.
Yep.
That is a plot hole.
Yep.
Yeah, I did feel like the electronically locked door was a little well, not just cliche, but it was a little like out of nowhere.
Yeah. It would have been nicer to have it mentioned sooner, like when they first encounter the door.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they mention that there's backup power. And this backup power basically lights the two red lights outside and the door, apparently.
Yeah.
But looking into it, like backup power, they say it's batteries, and if this facility was made in the 1970s, those batteries are probably not the greatest anymore.
Yeah, no. Especially given that they're out in the winter, like my old man has to like jumpstart had to jumpstart his truck every morning in the winters when we were growing up. Like,
Yeah.
and that's in like lower Canada, not like in the dead of winter we get like -30s, -40s at the worst, and like up north in Barrow, Alaska, I imagine they'd go even colder.
Yeah, because batteries don't like cold temperatures.
Mm-hmm. Also, that's degrees Celsius, not Fahrenheit, to our American friends.
Yeah. Well, did you know that at -40 degrees, it's both the same in Celsius and Fahrenheit?
You know, I did actually like. I was just thinking about that as I was saying that. It's like, wait, I think the minuses do actually like correlate with between Celsius or Fahrenheit.
Yeah, it's -40.
Okay.
But, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So basically, because the door was electronically locked,
Mm-hmm.
and the story mentions that the destruction crews created a hole in the ceiling. I was honestly expecting her to climb her way out.
Yeah, really. Like, but then we wouldn't get that second attempt, that waste of time to go check the computer monitor when she should be fucking escaping the bunker with what fuel she has left in that generator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I thought that I personally thought that was kind of stupid. It's like, no, don't fucking check that. God fucking damn it, you fucking already pissed in the soup. Don't fucking start drinking it. like just fucking get out of the damn bunker. Like, stop acting like a crazily obsessed person.
So stop acting like a protagonist to a creepypasta. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And a nice segue into my next actual thought. Speaking of crazily obsessed person, what if the guys in black SUVs are just guys in black SUVs?
Yeah. What if they're just people who like black SUVs that live in Barrow?
Yeah.
Also, a little damning. Like, it's like, oh, they stick out so gauchiously. Or like, I don't know what the exact quote was, but it's like she like starts like picking on the car for standing out so well against the snow. It's like, fuck you, dude. Like, maybe they don't want to get hit by anything, and they want to be known. Like I would want to have a car that isn't camouflaged with the white of the snow.
All people who drive black SUVs are evil individuals who are out to get you.
I mean, you're
You
not
should
wrong.
know this as someone who drives a black SUV.
You're not wrong. I am a pretty evil motherfucker.
Yeah,
I'm no Mikey. The East does stand for evil, but I
it
am
truly does.
an evil villain.
Sure.
The end of my actual thoughts.
Okay. Actually, you did put you brought up some really good points about like continuity for the story. Like I swear the story started with them opening a padlock to get into that building, not having to deal with an electric lock whatsoever. So
Yeah, Isaac struck the key into the frozen padlock.
yeah, there no reference of an electric keypad or anything like that, like or of an
Well, there's
electric
multiple
lock.
locks. I'm assuming that lock was like the outermost lock.
Yes,
like,
but
get
it's
through
not
the gate.
referenced. It should have been referenced much earlier about an electric lock. Like,
Well, yes and no, because okay, where's the generator? On what
It's on the
side of the
inside.
electric locking door?
it's inside of the door.
Yep.
Yeah, they have to go down to the basement, I think, to get the to start the generator.
And the generator shutting off closes the door to get to the basement.
Well,
Is it?
Right.
Hang on.
the-
Yeah. Is it, huh?
okay.
Okay.
So it had the station has backup power.
Yeah.
So that backup power powers the two red lights and the door. The generator gives power to the facility and charges the backup power.
Okay.
So how come the power just... All right, so the power went out when she was in the basement, and because it completely went out, the backup power is completely out as well.
Yeah.
So you'd have to start up the generator to create some energy to open the door. And
Okay.
Okay, I guess.
So it is. It's salvageable, but it's a little rocky.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. But again, you did bring up a good point. Like it did make us think about it for a minute. So, but yeah, if that's all you've got for actual thoughts, we'll move on to gamer.
Okay. So right in the intro, there's a year after I dug up the laser tag story starting in early 2014, I expanded my research for other disturbing, possibly true tales. So just reading that right off the bat, I was like, awesome. Because I recall having an issue in laser tag where it was hard to get a grip of the time frame things were happening in.
Okay, yeah.
And the way that this is laid out, it's just right from the get-go. It's just, here's the facts you need, just laid out normally and clear and simple, and that's the way it's supposed to be. So I'm just giving it props for that.
Cool.
And we get on to later on the story, January 26th. Now that we're upgrading, replacing, and demolishing various sites and transitioning from DEW to NWS. And for DEW and NWS has bracketing what it means, which is distant early warning system and north warning system.
Mm-hmm.
I like that both of those are explained out in brackets.
Yeah.
Because like there's been two in-lore people that have gone over the story right now, the mother and the daughter. So it's good to see them explain out the technical jargon, because I imagine the mother didn't bother writing all that out.
Yeah.
Then they go down and find the computer running. I wanted to check to see if there's any files on the machine, but Isaac didn't seem to think it was worth it, and the generator soon shut down and cut power to everything. So I kind of chimed in with this earlier a little bit, but I'll go into it more in depth here. Checking files is like a big part of what you're doing there. You looked for paper files before. This is no different. Personally, it would have been better if Mom saw it and called it out, then went down to check it out. But just as Mother was about to put a command in, the generator died and shut off. Instead of being like, there's a computer down here that's working, and it's like, no, it's not worth it. Because who would say it's not worth it in that situation? That's the long and short.
I mean, I could see that Isaac would be like it seemed like Isaac just wanted to get yep, nobody's tampered with anything. All right, there's a computer there, whatever. Fucking, it's a piece of shit junk. Just basically like he's the slacker. He's the guy that just doesn't want, like, he wants to get in and out and done because he wants to get out of the cold.
I guess, but like if that's his character, fine. But
Yeah.
if I was the main character, I'd be like, no, there's a working computer here. I'm doing my freaking job. I'm gonna see what the hell's on that. Plus, I'm curious as hell.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't be? Apparently, if your name is Isaac, you wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah, personally, all right. That was reading at that point where the first time they went there, they didn't touch the computer, right?
They did touch the computer the first time. Yeah, they just they had to set up they had to get the generator going to start it up.
Well, they started it up, but they didn't check it out. I think.
I think they tested. I think did they not check it on their first try?
No, because the generator went down like after Isaac was saying no.
Oh,
Hence why
right.
I suggested this
You're right.
rewrite of it where it's the same outcome, just a little bit more natural.
Gotcha.
Because as it is like, we should check this out. No, we shouldn't. And then they continue walking around for a little while, and then the power goes out later. Where if you have it, I know it's making it more cinematic or whatever, whether that's good or bad, I don't know. But have it the mom goes down and is about to start typing in it, and then as soon as she's about to, the power shuts down.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think they were definitely setting up Isaac to be like that guy, like that employee that just wants to fucking like take shortcuts and just like, I don't get paid enough to check a computer. Let's just catalog it that there's a computer here. It's somebody else's problem. Like, leave it for the next guy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, yours also makes a little bit more like also works a little bit more like logically. Like they should be like one of them should have checked it out like the first go.
Yeah. Then it gets on to the actual transcript talking to Central on February 3rd, where it says, greeting, I didn't have a username, and it didn't ask for one, then it tabs down, and it's, is that lesser or greater than? I forget. When it's pointing towards something, it's pointing towards what is greater.
Yes?
So if it's open to the right, like the first line is it's open to the right and it says hello. Does that mean that's greater than, right? Because something on the other side is smaller than it, lesser than it.
It points at the lesser.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Oh, sorry.
The alligator eats the bigger.
Yes, that's what I meant by point. I meant in my head, I was like the open mouth of the alligator is pointed towards the bigger one.
Actually, less than is the one where it's where the arrow is pointing to the left. So double greater than is central, and single less than is mom.
Okay. I just
googled greater than simple. So
yeah. Because like I can always Google it, of course, and I probably should have, but whatever. When I'm out and about, I don't necessarily have Google on me.
Fair.
I guess the easier way to remember it is if it's pointed at the left, it's lesser than, because they're both L's. Either way.
It's lefter than.
Yeah, it's lefter than that one. Okay, either way, the main part I'm bringing this up is I like that the hello and all this stuff is colored in green. It's a good visual for it because that's exactly what it is in the story as well.
Yeah, they definitely formatted it nicely on the creepypasta.wiki, and I assume it's also on the cold storage website. I didn't check that one yet.
Of note, it's not green on mobile.
Oh, that's a shame. Is it just doesn't have it?
It's all the same color.
Oh, okay. That's annoying.
Oh, that's poopy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm checking the other like the main one just to see if they have like on the cold storage website. Or not cold storage, the cold relic. Yeah, on the cold relic website they also have like the green and like bolding over the dates and stuff like that. So the formatting is on par with the creepypasta.wiki. So
okay, well either way.
Yeah.
So good to move on?
Yeah. If that's all you had for about the formatting and such.
Yes. Next one here, I didn't mention my new mysterious friend, but I thought about him all the way through the truck drive home. You talked about that already.
Yeah.
But specifically, my point on all this is, like, why wouldn't you tell anyone about this?
I could see why, like from a personal, like, or like from somebody like at a work thing. It's like they might think that they're going to get in trouble for what they
For
did.
doing her job?
I understand. I know it's sort of like it kind of borders Derpland a little bit, but it is something that happens a lot in stories. Like the reason why somebody does, and it's honestly, it happens in real life. I've done it before, where I haven't told somebody about something that I did at work because I was afraid I was going to get in trouble. And it's nonsensical. Like there's no reason I would get in trouble for doing my job, but it's just people act that way sometimes. It's actually kind of normal. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like why she wouldn't report this to Isaac or her superiors. It's like, hey, this computer is connected to ARPANET. I mean, other than, to keep the plot going so that it doesn't stop here.
It wouldn't, though.
It would. It might. It could. It has. It
wouldn't at all.
How would it not?
Because she'd report it, and they'd be like, "Oh shit, okay, we'll go back there tomorrow and see what the hell is all about it."
No.
Send someone else up there. How many people are up there?
They would send the man in black, or they'd say, "It's like, all right, don't worry about it. We'll send top men." Like that. It's the government. They've got a history on that kind of shit. Yeah. So I can understand her fears. Again, this is also like 1980s. Like people were a lot more cagey about that. Like, because you don't want to be like people were cagey about being considered a traitor of the state or like an enemy of the state and such. For doing nothing. Like it's a completely irrational fear, most of the time, but it is a fear nonetheless that people have. So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
It's just like later on, it even says, she says, "I wondered if I should have mentioned this central to anyone else, and how would I ever get back to LIZ-4 to continue our conversation," which up to this point had yet really begun. So to me, that's like case in point, because if she mentioned this to someone, her superiors would, in my mind, let her go back to continue talking to him.
I wish the world worked the way you think, gamer.
Uh-huh.
Because yeah, in that world, everything would be honky dory, but more often than not, people get disappeared for seeing something they shouldn't, or talking with somebody they shouldn't. At least
so you think even if she didn't type anything in it, if she just said hello and then something said back, that would be too much?
Honestly, I think at that point, that's where again, if she'd reported, if that's all she had done, and she'd reported that she'd made contact with somebody on ARPANET, that's the end of the story. This may not be the end of her, like in terms of like. But that would basically be where the end of the story is. Like, the government kind of came in, took over, or like told them to don't worry about it anymore. Like you're getting sent home. We've got top men on it, all that kind of bullshit. I think that's where it would have ended peacefully for her. But if she had said anything after she'd like had a couple of conversations with this thing and found out that it was in charge of nukes and stuff. You gotta imagine, like, this is during the the worst, like the height of the Cold War. Like, yeah, we have peace. No, we have peace. But no, this is shortly after. If this got out, this would be very scandalous to the government. So the government would be trying to cover it up. Hence why they're probably trying to decommission these bases kind of out of the way and with only like a 2-man crew. So, yeah, I could definitely see, like, at that point, if she'd confessed to or like reported to her superiors, she might disappear after that.
I suppose.
Because that's how the government do with cover-ups. They don't want scandals. Mm-hmm. They don't want somebody revealing that they made an error or they did something horrific to or they have an AI. They don't want their enemies to know that shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Again, I'm not saying. I mean, maybe that's not the way the world works. That's the way life has. That's the way life has presented itself to me thus far in my 34 years of living.
Mhm.
And now that I've dated myself,
Anchors.
we can move on.
Also, like another way, even if that does happen and they send someone else, the story has enough freaking perspective shifts. It could just perspective shift to another person.
Yeah, that's true.
There's already 3 narrators in this, so why
what's
not do
one
a fourth?
more? Yeah, what's one more file or one more narrator in this
Yeah,
inception?
exactly.
We must go deeper. Aww.
hmm That extra narrator could be the like guardian angel person that got introduced later.
Yep.
For all
It could also be the story could have also suddenly gotten very more epistolary, where it's like, yeah, we get this little bit of journal entry about that was found on the deep web. Then our hero starts doing other searches for this LIZ-4 and then discovers some other stories that some other reports that somebody has posted online about LIZ-4 and like what happened there and such.
Mhm.
So basically, it becomes more of an investigation like Kittyland was, to a degree.
Either way, we can move on from here.
Okay.
This is referring to the driver of the car that she's been taking repeatedly.
The living automaton.
I was like a robot assigned to do one task only. I wish I at least had Isaac with me, so it wasn't just me and the human steering wheel. Thank you for that visual. Just basically a guy who's like melded into the steering column.
Yeah. Just imagine
Like-
his neck is just like in the center of the steering wheel.
Well, no, he has to see. I think like his chest is like melded to it.
Oh, okay.
his
okay, yeah.
Like his arms have been like melded just around the steering wheel, but they're like at his shoulders, so his like chest is up against it. He's just like, eh.
Yeah, it's like a horrible version of like the Thing practical effects, but like instead of like merging 2 human bodies together, it's just merging a human with a car, like the car seat.
Or like a human body that's been crushed and bent into the shape of a steering wheel.
God.
And like that's the entirety of it.
So a Cronenberg car.
Sure. I'll act like I know what that
digital-
means.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
But yeah.
People out there, I'm sure we have horror fans that know what I mean when I say a Cronenberg car. They've got a good visual for that.
If not, you got Google.
Yeah.
So moving right along.
But loose and fancy free.
Yeah. So I believe this is at the end of the first talk with him with Central. I
Okay.
believe it is. Because Mother's like, I gotta go for reasons. And then Central's like, I didn't write it down, that's why I'm elaborating. Or not elaborating, doesn't matter. Central says, unfortunate, goodbye, bracket, name bracket. I will continue to function optimally. As soon as I saw a confirmation that he wouldn't start launching missiles, I did a one-over of the main room upstairs, blah, 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 blah. So, unless I missed it, Central never said he's about to launch missiles. Why the sudden worry like he just asked if he could launch one?
I think because, like...
All he did so far is he said, like, it's been 1,500 days since I've had maintenance on my offensive capabilities. Are there any active nukes?
I think she's taking the implication as like that he's asking, "Can I fire a nuke, please?"
I don't think so. I mean
again,
yes, she assumed that. I just don't personally see how the hell someone could assume that.
I mean, you do have a very different perspective from some people, so
I guess, but like, just asking, are there any nukes in America? Not, are there any nukes in America, and can I launch them right now?
Can I fire a nuke, pretty please?
Yeah, if he said that, I'd be a little concerned.
Yeah. I think what you're forgetting is that like this is in a time where like we just got out of the Cold War, so like emotions are still running a little hot about that whole mess. So
Yeah.
people were still worried about like in the 80s, people were still worried about having bombs dropped on them in North America.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the reasons why a lot of certain like punk movements and like stuff kind of came about in the 80s is because fuck it, we're all gonna die tomorrow, so why the fuck do we care? Like that was the mentality in the 80s. Like sort of a doomsday clock sort of situation. So but yeah. Sorry.
Well, and one thing about the offensive abilities, it says he's dedicating 0% to it. So I'm at that point we can sort of assume that he's been disconnected from the silos.
Yeah, really, you should. Yeah, well, I mean that's how it could be used. Otherwise, it's like they've just never used. He's never had to like really. He's never used them. They've never gone off. So he's never had a need to like put focus on that. Hence why it's never been at anything more than 0%.
Well, I don't think that's what the percentages mean, because there's 3 or 4 of them that say 100%. So it's not like he's dedicating 100% of his processing power to this one, 100% to this one.
No, I don't think it
how
means
efficient is he at it? Is there any problems with it? So because he hasn't had his offensive stuff gone over in so many years, he can't even.
Yeah. How do I? Yeah. It's like, how do I even fire these nukes?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. It seemed. I think it's more just like she's overreacting and she's freaking out because it's a time in the world where people were freaking out about that kind of shit. So, and she's already dealing with the stress of knowing that there's apparently a government AI and then later on like a human that's charged to be a computer. So,
anyways, I'll move on here. So. This is at the end of the first day of talking, and my note here is basically just they've gone through a whole day of chatting, and that's all they talked about. Like, if it's because there's huge delays in responses, it should kind of lead with that. Like, out of the 5 hours I was there, this is all the info I could get because of how long it takes Central to respond. If it said that, cool, but otherwise, it's really not that long.
Yeah, it also doesn't seem like that was the case. Like, it seemed like he was responding at a pretty decent clip.
Well, it's hard to know without any timestamps.
I mean, obviously, yeah, but like it did seem like I think it does describe like he was responding pretty promptly. So
yeah, so unless she was only there for like 10 minutes and then left.
I mean, that could also be the case because like maybe she can't be out there that long, right? So
yeah, we'll move on from there. So on to the next section, which is March 19th. Sound crazy, but what if it was suddenly up to me to tell the computer otherwise? Wait, to tell the computer otherwise and ease up its trigger finger on the nukes in regards to telling him otherwise about the Cold War and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So again, Mom, you gotta cool down. He hasn't been hostile at all.
Yeah.
Where's this coming from?
Also, I do like how she basically this is all her fault. Like all of her troubles are her fault. Like her fears taking over and like because like she could have just left Central to his own devices, and it wouldn't have even considered like setting off the nukes or anything like that. Like it's all her to like set off. Like she's the one that like tried to like to try and tell, like, she's the one that tried to update Central that the war was over.
Yeah, it really wasn't her job to do that.
It wasn't her job to do that. Central would have probably had no inclination to fire any nukes had she not said anything about, like, the end of the war.
Mm-hmm. Well, he fired the nukes because she lied and said that the Soviets are attacking. Run for your lives.
Well, that was at the very end, but like I mean, before that, like she tried to dissuade him that like the war was over, and then he got upset and locked her out while he did research. It's like, and that's when she started freaking out. I was like, oh my god, I've just set off World War II or World War III. Oh god.
Pretty much.
But yeah, like basically, this whole story could have been prevented if she just did her fucking job straightforward.
But also, as you said, there'd be no story.
Yeah, exactly. Then we wouldn't have a story. The story is definitely one of human error and horror.
Mm-hmm. Next one. This is Mom starting this in the text chat. I checked, all of our nuclear silos are operational. Central responds by saying, "That is excellent news," her name. So I straight up face bombed at this section.
Yeah.
Because it's like, Mom, you're worried about this AI's trigger finger, and then you just straight up tell it that it has live nukes? Why? And she didn't check. She's lying.
No, yeah, she's straight up lying. She's lying to try and she's telling the AI that is capable of firing nukes that the nukes are live to try and prevent the nukes from going off.
But it hasn't said a damn thing about wanting to shoot nukes.
I know. It's so.
You know what she's doing? She's at the freaking zoo poking a bear with a stick.
Yeah.
100%.
She really is like. Apparently, before they were living in Nevada, she was from Derpland.
Yeah.
Mom's a Derplander here.
Pretty much. Or she's just a fucking joker. She just wants to see the world burn, and is causing it.
And then back, but like it's worse because like she wants. There's like she has this inclination to do it, and then she's like, "Oh God, what have I done? What have I done? Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit!"
Yeah.
Like.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then we get on to section March 21st, 25th, 26th, 27th, and 28th, where I have nothing to say, because they're all tiny. There's nothing to say on them, thankfully.
Yeah, I mean, it read pretty well. I also have like a whole section, like I looked, like I was going through my notes, like to collect them for my my thought list, and I literally had to go like down like 10 pages, because there's nothing I was like, no, I read through the story, it was fun. So.
Yep. Then after all those, it says posted on 5/15/14 at 6:05 a.m. In this follow-up post, I want to clear up a few things that provide some first-hand accounts and story of what we're doing up here and what has happened since. I should begin by saying that I'm not posting this directly. I have a friend who is making a great risk in doing so for me. So when I read this, I'm like, who is saying this? Because the words being said, it sounds like mother.
Yeah.
But it's in the formatting of daughter. Because this is, like, at the start before the journal entries, it said posted on Blair, and then daughter said things. And then she went, here's all the journals, and went to the journals, and then went back to posted and said this.
Yeah. So it's
who
the
do you
daughter.
think it is?
It's the daughter speaking, obviously.
Yes, it is. But I only had that confirmed later on.
Oh, okay. I had it immediately. Because it's using a different posting like setup than the journals were.
Yeah, but look, I say that as I'm pointing to my fucking monitor. But look,
I know.
Here,
I could see it. Like I visually I mentally saw that you do that.
But it says right here. In this follow-up post, I want to clear up a few things and provide some first-hand accounts and story of what we were doing up there. She wasn't up there. The daughter was not up there. Mother was.
No. She was up there too. She lived in the house. Remember, like early on in the journal, it says that her mom was having to like get a babysitter while they went out to the base.
Oh, I assumed up there as in up there at the frickin' silo.
Yeah, but yeah, that was while her mom was at the bay or was at LIZ-4, like a couple of miles out of Barrow, daughter was in Barrow as a kid, like being babysat.
Yes, and that was brought up once, and I forgot.
Yeah, it is a long story.
There's been no home time, so and the whole thing is about the daughter not having any connection with her mother. So I'm like, okay, I guess she's not there.
Mm-hmm.
I wrongly assumed up there meant the bunker and not the entire town that they're in. So maybe some clarification could be done on that.
Yeah, so you don't make an ass of you and me. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I suppose. Next one, I have very few memories of Nevada. Most of my earliest childhood recollection, blah, blah, blah,
Recollection.
blah, 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 words. Say words.
Also, the way you said Nevada.
Nevada.
From Chicago.
Yeah. Let me read you all that. Let's start over. Oh, hello. Okay, now we can move on.
So, yeah. Sorry.
I have
I'm editing all. Future Me's editing all of this crap out.
We'll see. I have very few memories of Nevada. Most of my earliest childhood recollections are of the cold and the darkness. Child of Haudite too, I see.
Ah, yes. No one's gonna get that reference until
I
one day post the Grumblehammer Esoterica games for One Less Die, our Shadowrun and gaming actual play podcast. Plug.
I gave you an opportunity for a plug there.
Yeah. Oh my god.
It's fine. Next up, I ran the gamut of emotions. I didn't know it was spelt like that.
Neither did I.
I thought it was Gambit, like the X-Men.
Right? Yeah, I thought for my entire life I have gone that running the Gambit is running the Gambit.
Yeah.
Not Gambit.
Gamut.
Yeah, Gamut. I was like, what the fuck? How did I never know that?
I learned a thing. We learned a thing.
Yep. What does it mean though? Like I got as far as like, oh, that is actually how you say it. Like, but I didn't.
Me too. However, I'm pretty sure basically what it means is like you're going through the entire range of motions.
Yep.
Of emotions from like the good and the bad.
The complete range or scope of something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It's fine. We'll move on.
Yeah.
And then I read this a little bit later. I will say this about my mom. She was all I had.
Sorry, he did it again, my ma'am. By the way, future me, keep in Nevada.
Nevada. I think I'm a little loopy today, guys.
It's okay, it's fine.
I'll reread.
No, don't change. No, it's fine. I'm keeping it in. I think it's very endearing and funny.
Okay, fine, whatever. Either way, that's being said, she was all I had, and then my response to that is, was, because I didn't at that point. My response was, was, which means she might be dead or something now.
Yeah.
In the future.
In the future.
You heard me. I wrote down all the contents of both journals in one night, along with these comments. Luckily, my current very outdated computer at least has a USB port. My salvation. Tiny storage device my angel gave me worked, and while I know they probably already had their own transcript of the second journal, I also needed to digitize it myself. Immortalizing it into a text file was like the end of a long journey. Now I have a chance to breathe, blah, 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 blah. So I see you take after your mother, being worried about something and then immediately acting like you aren't worried about it anymore. AI on the trigger finger? Tell me as live nukes. Not wanting to type out the journal because doing so would let the feds know you have one? Type out the second one instead. That's real smart.
Not wanting to incriminate yourself by having this be posted online. Post it online, just in a deeper level of the internet.
Yeah.
For somebody to dredge it up and put it on a more public forum.
Pretty much.
Thus endangering daughter and mom.
Yeah, they're both dead now, probably.
Yeah.
But moving on, March 29th, 88. First journal is hidden inside my kid's favorite stuffed toy, right by the tear. I hate the English language. They're typed the same.
It's terrible. I know.
The tear in its back. I know she'll discover it someday. If you know she'll find it, why did you tell people where you're hiding it?
Also, what's funny is like it'll stay with her wherever she is. That Teddy will follow. Just imagine. Imagine the day she's leaving. The day she leaves, like for her, like the daughter leaves at Barrow. They tell her to just like she doesn't get a chance to keep any of her stuff, so it just stays there in Barrow, in the teddy bear, and then it goes to a thrift store that somebody else finds.
I imagined it was like a Toy Story situation where It's just left in the box at the side of the road, or like at a garage sale because she's like grown up and doesn't give a shit about it anymore.
Yeah. She never saw. She never like caught wind that it was in there the whole time. So like,
no, hell no.
Yeah, I thought you were when you said
my
the Toy
point
Story
is-
analogy. I was just imagining this like teddy bear's like, gotta get this thing stuck out of my ass. gotta get to my kid.
What?
Because the journal is inside of the teddy bear, so when it animates
Yeah.
because of Toy Story logic, like
Oh yeah.
it's like that scene from Pulp Fiction where fucking John or Christopher Walken's character had a watch smuggled up his ass for his friend's
Oh,
like,
right.
son or something.
Yeah.
Oh my god, why are we so fucking loopy today?
I don't know. I thought it was the fumes from the paint thinners because I've been painting all morning. It might be.
Oh god.
It's fine.
Now I'm gonna have the gamer just like with like a bunch of paint like smeared on him and like and a paintbrush.
Yeah, totally. Either way, only a couple more.
Okay.
Just saying, if I'm found here somehow, bleh. Just saying, if I'm found here tomorrow, I probably slipped and broke my neck. Not necessarily assassinated. Nice bit of morbid humor there.
Yeah, I kind of liked it honestly.
Yeah. Surprised you didn't bring that up, honestly. Or you did, and I just forgot because I don't remember it that you said.
I didn't. I just also forgot to mention it until now.
Okay. And then there's like a weird time lapse of an unknown time because they don't know.
Like at least a few hours. Like it's dawn now, so yeah.
Well, no, this is even after that.
Oh, like when they start summarizing over the years, right?
Yeah, but it's unknown how many
Yeah.
years after that it is.
Gotcha.
And at this point, or wait, maybe it's not. I don't know because my next cue is can't shut down the computer, so I don't think it's time lapse.
Yeah, so that was the lost hours she spent like unconscious because of the ice.
Yes, for sure. Anyways, quote is, as selfish as it sounds, I had to focus on running away at that point. Or, the better option is she could have just turned off the only thing that's powering the facility, the generator.
Yep.
Because if you shut that off, the whole facility shuts down. It might have backup power for a little bit, but that's not enough to run the computer because the computer only turned on when they had the generator on.
I also like how she had a shotgun. She
Never
pointed
fired.
at the fucking computer. Or no, she pointed at the fucking computer and then decided against it.
Yes.
I thought that was against the door.
No, she also
She pointed at both.
Yeah, she pointed at them at both, and both times she decided not to. She decided against it.
She likes pointing the thing. She does not like firing it.
Yeah.
She probably had no ammo.
You did have ammo, she said.
Is she? Oh, okay. Regardless, I feel like if she shut off the generator, then Central wouldn't have been going through all his routines and potentially launching nukes.
Yeah, you're right.
Cool. And that's actually the last one.
Oh, okay.
I had a section here, like I titled and everything, like January 1st, 2014, number 1, and then there's nothing there. So maybe I assumed I was going to say something else, and then I had nothing to say at the end.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the end of my notes.
Okay. So I suppose we'll move on to final thoughts then. So for me, this was an interesting one. It sort of meandered through various little twists, as is the nature sometimes of technological horror. Like at first, it's a possible AI forgotten by the government that a character stumbles onto. And then we discover that's a secret living machine project, like a human that's been conditioned and experimented on to be part machine or to interact directly with machines. And then it throws in a shadow organization that is either a legal or illegal government conspiracy. So it sort of meandered. Like it could have ended with her like discovering. Like for me, I felt like it could have ended where she discovers this AI that's been like forgotten, and that would have been the story. Like, oh, that was a really weird fucking piece of technology that apparently the government was working on. Anyway, the base got decommissioned, and that was the end of it. But no, it kept going on, and it kept extrapolating onto this like sort of conspiracy that was happening. And I found that very intriguing, as it kept kind of branching into down that train of thought for the narrative. So, personally, like I found it really enjoyable. It's just a very long read, but I did quite enjoy it. So I would recommend it for the kind of meandering discovery of a sick and twisted government or project that was done during the Cold War. So, Mikey, these stands for evil.
All right, let's see here. So I enjoyed the read for the most part. I liked the sort of monster in the machine, and the fact that it left you sort of guessing what it was until it flat out said it was a human stuck to a machine. And my biggest issue was that electronically locked door that comes out
Can
of
you fix
Left Town. Well, it's still sort of. I personally believe it should have been mentioned, like the first time they enter, that here's how we get into it through this electronically locked door, so that if the power goes out, it will lock itself.
Yeah.
Yep.
It'd be good foreshadowing to the end as well.
Exactly. Like that's kind of what I like. What happens like when you just add something like that detail like out of the blue. I do feel like that's kind of a case where it does need a little bit of foreshadowing ahead of time, like just a little bit of a hint or like a detail beforehand, just to kind of like set that up. But
yeah, and like I said, for me, it would have been better if it was locked, that she would escape through the hole in the ceiling, because I mean, it's a perfect setup that there's a hole in the ceiling.
Yeah, the only thing that served to do was to make the base cold and cold enough that ice formed on the floor so that she could slip and lose time.
Yeah, they could have just left the banana peel there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, I'm going to give this a partial recommendation.
Okay. And Gamer.
For me, it's an interesting story. My views on things changed repeatedly throughout the read, which also reminds me, when I first started reading, I was trying to think of what the hell LIZ-4 could be right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Just from reading the title, I'm like, is it a robot? Should this be during Robovember? And then...
Yeah, because it spells out Lisa.
Oh yeah, it does, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets talking about Nair's mother right from the get-go, and I'm like, is LIZ-4 their mom? Or their moms? It's a fourth one? There's like a clone situation going on.
Yeah. But then it does explain.
Yeah, then it's building, and I was like,
actually, it's just a base designation.
Yes.
Also, yeah, we're not doing Robovember this year. We're doing 10 November, remember?
Oh, right, that's a better one.
Mm-hmm.
Because anything Warframe is better than the other option.
Wow.
A little bit of a bias.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Anyways, doesn't matter. So yeah, my views on this changed repeatedly when reading the story about what LIZ-4 might be, about what Central might be, about the competency of our main character that fluctuated a lot. She's like working with the military as far as she knows, so like why wouldn't she report in that she found shit on the computer with an AI and all that? Like, I know we already talked about that, but whatever.
Yeah, I know.
Why'd she tell Central that it has nukes? That one you can't really argue with me on. Why'd she make Central think that the Soviets are attacking? And like even the daughter isn't safe from these questionable choices, as I brought up before with her options. So like overall, I liked the story, but the most I can give it is a partial, just because of the odd decisions that some of the characters made. That like fair. Pulled me out of it.
See, where you were pulled out of it, I actually like. I'm even thinking about them like now, like and poking fun at them. I still kind of enjoyed the like how she reacted because it was just it's kind of like gallows humor, kind of like she's digging her own grave, literally, like digging her own like reason why she has to go on the lam.
Yeah. I feel like if
And that's-
we were sitting down watching the movie that is LIZ-4, I'd be the guy that's like, "Why are you going in there?" Like in the theater.
Exactly. Yeah. We'd definitely be like, this would definitely be I feel like this would probably be the kind of like movie that we'd watch it like on like a movie night, and just like poke fun at or be like it's like those like classic like 80s slasher movies are like, why are you going into that place? Why would you do that? Why are you splitting up? Like
Yeah, uselessly yelling at the TV that can't listen.
yeah. Well, that's kind of our show.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So partial recommendation was what you said?
Yes.
Okay. So and you have nothing else to say further?
Correct.
So yeah, I suppose then that's going to be 2 out of 3 recommendations, like 2 partials make a 1. And we'll hopefully see that if the Fountain of Youth reference was actually a reference to the next story in the Cold Relic story, at some point, I'm not sure if we're going to do that right away. Maybe take a breather from a longer one. But that's our episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can also find us on Twitter. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W because his name is very long.
It's gotta be them.
And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things, cryptids. Send us your links and your suggestions. We'll add them to the list. We'll read them. We'll discuss them. We'll record them and post them for the show. And if you'd like to help support the show financially, you can go to Patreon. Look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis. It's like the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content, all that good stuff. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you guys immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the creators of these stories, thank you immensely as well. Because without your listenership, it would be like screaming into the void, the cold vastness of the Arctic, howling winds and all that. And if you didn't write these stories, you authors out there, and share them online in the deep web, or on creepypasta.wiki or your own little official website for your stories, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.